So now I'm so pleased to present our second speaker of the morning, Dr. Chi-Ren Shyu. We're so very fortunate to have another distinguished international guest with us. And I'll hold on to the microphone for a moment. Yes. Dr. Shyu is the Schumacher Professor in Engineering in our MU School of College of Engineering, and he works with us closely in informatics and lymphedema. We have provided an application for the wonderful work that he does in building data sets and data mining. We have members of his student team here with us today as well in the audience. It's just been such a privilege to be introduced about 4 years ago. Has it been?
6 years.
6 years ago. Time flies when you're having fun. 6 years ago to Dr. Shyu, and to learn so much about the informatics and the computer science world. Dr. Shyu is the head of our MU Informatics Institute here on our campus, and has done amazing things in helping to build ways to analyze the data set that we've accumulated here and has been accumulated by other researchers in this area. And in addition, he's a wonderful friend and colleague, and it's my pleasure to welcome him today to present to us.
Thank you. Okay, so let me tell you a story about why I am in this area. When all my friends ask me why you are in lymphedema area here. We had a cancer center research director, Dr. Bill Caldwell, bump into Jen in an elevator, and then asking Jen Jen asked him about who can help me to manage databases, right? So Bill looked at me saying, hey, you know what? You can build databases for Jen. And that's not what I'm doing, but I met with Jen and tried to figure out what type of database you are working on. The more I know more the area here, and I met friends here, several friends here, I feel a great passion from this area. You all are working hard to help patients, to provide better care. So for me, as a geek, I really have no choice. I got to stay in this area, and I'm sure in the next 10 years you're going to see me here too. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about our research in data analytics, and then I'm sorry about a long title here. I didn't know that there's a limitation about the characters, so I put this one here. So understanding the lymphedema community needs through data analytics. And I'm going to talk about several projects we have. First one is Minimum Data Set Project. It's funded by National Library of Medicine. And also Therapist Directory. It's a mobile app application here. And patient self-management and industry partnerships here. So that's what I would like to work on for big data, the data set here. Okay. So I'm sure, in your clinics, you will have this type of story. People hand you the data here and say, look, I don't see anything here. Can you mine something from this data set here? Okay, so we work with different clinic sets here, and then there are publications, interesting publications from different areas, different locations. But they are all working on a small subset of the patient's population. Okay, so findings could be relevant for the regional because of the insurance policy, because of all different types of clinical settings there. But is there a way we can really study lymphedema patients across different sites with geographically different locations? Okay, so instead of handing 100 megabyte data here, we would like to create a cyber infrastructure for clinical sites to deposit the data set. And we can provide a broad analysis of the data here. So my role here is from data to real-time action or insights for lymphedema stakeholders. And then many of you contributed to this project at this point here. And I would like to mention patients are the key of our users here, and also clinicians, nurses, therapists, and industry partners here. So this is a complex type of the design for our GO8 grant application and funded about 4 years ago, will be concluded in September. And this one, like, the center of the work is the minimum data set. Is there a pointer here? The top, okay. So the minimum data set here, we would like to collect data from many different sites here. And then from that, like, we would like to link with our tools, DC miners, natural language processing tools, statistical tools, and graphic tools here. With also survey data for stakeholders. With this one here, then we try to link with all those information sources from different cyberspaces. The first one is ACS. Okay, is Kim here? Oh, okay, and like, we have all those partners working with us, and actually, like, the reason, I would say the major reason for us to secure this grant is the overwhelming support from the community. So our support letters is like this kind of size, okay? So, like, they have no choice, to give us grant for this one here. Okay, and then we try to use those to provide query tools, questions to be asked by our stakeholders at different levels, and then to answer those questions in a very, user-friendly way. And with that, then we build complex library, and then have knowledge base, and to provide up-to-date information, evidence-based information, to help best practice guidelines for that. And at this point here, we know best practice guidelines are archived in the book, right? And then you have to wait until the next edition to be out here. But with the data, with the real-time information deposited by different sites here, we're hoping we can come up with those knowledge base in a timely fashion. Of course, with the approval from the from the committee, the scientific committee of ALFP, to provide up-to-date information. Okay, and then those are stakeholders we are going to serve. Okay, including researchers, clinicians, nurses, therapists, and also ALFP staff, steering committee, and social workers, and patient family, and also our industry partners here, because this one is for grant application. We didn't put that there. Okay, so why minimum data set here? Minimum data set, like what I mentioned, we try to study across different sites. So from different sites, we want to find aggregations, we want to find individual differences, we want to find any type of the contrast, any kind of the findings that can help to better study for the community here. Okay, so the first step here, we try to build infrastructure, cyber infrastructure, to take care of different types of clinical settings here. So you can see, from state, based type of clinical settings, private, academic, and also international. With that, we try to put together this type of the data mapping ideas. So data mapping idea, that is a simple example created by one of my students, to talk about different institutions. And you submit the data in, and then you can see the measurement data, or left, right, and people use different ways, okay? And that's one of them here. You can also try to put volume data here. Some places, we have different measurement, different distances, different formula to come up with volume here. How are we going to study across different sites with all different variations here? Okay, so we got to put this type of mapping mechanism together for minimum data set for that. So with that, then it's called middleware and has been built for this one here. And we also try to process different news sites, okay, from NLN, from ACS, from different lymphedema-related sites. Try to automatic pull out news articles. And also go to PubMed to pull out new publications in lymphedema-related type of the work here. And then to use informatics tools, analyze them, fuse them together, and provide services to researchers, therapists, physicians, nurses, lymphedema therapists, and patient public, and also our industry partners here. So this one is going to provide the knowledge base to serve all those stakeholders here. So for lymphedema minimum data set, there are three major parts here. The first one is lymph volume surveillance idea. The second part is symptom, and the third part is patient's characteristics. Okay, so at this point here, we try to archive and also store those information. In the future, after knowing more and more about things great genomics type of the study, we will add genomics information there. Okay, could be sequence information, could be protein structure information there. Okay, so I also do bioinformatics research for this one here. So lymph volume surveillance, you can see we try to try to see what types of the calculation formula we use for lymph volume, or it's it's a water displacement idea, or measurement of the lymph, and with parameter readings, circumference measurement, bioelectrical impedance, and all those different types of the lymph volume measurement here, how we are going to store them. And once we store them, what will be the way for us to compare across different sites here? Symptom data, validated clinical assessment tools, okay, including LBCQ. Many of the sites are using LBCQ, developed by ALFP, I believe. And then with the swelling, heaviness, fitness, tightness, and stiffness data. It's more like survey data from the patients. So we developed association mining algorithms and also contrast mining algorithms to understand what types of the aggregation association across different types of symptoms for the patients. And patients' demographic information, including age, gender, height, weight with the BMI, and history, etc. And currently, we are adding the medication data to the database at this point here. Okay, so the challenging for our middleware, because data are collected from many different sites here. So the objective for the measurement is we got to figure out how to normalize the data here. And with the subjective measurement here, different sites might ask questions slightly different. So how we're going to make sure we are comparing apple to apple, orange to orange, okay? And so that's the challenge here. And in this case, stakeholder will be able to aggregate similar information in the MDS, minimum data set, and subsequent queries if, we can make it work. And actually, we are in the process of making it work at this point. So just give you an example about minimum data set differences here. The minimum data set here, different sites, just use 4 sites for an example here. And those are very similar, and some places you will see some variations here. So variations including how you measure dates. Dates could be the time you measure dates, or could be before op, after upper, post op, and pre op, and 60 months, 15 months, and which part we want to look at the timestamps here, right? So how to normalize that here? Age. The age about your integer number, or you use the date of birth for age calculation here, and also different volumes here. So you will see it took us a while to design this kind of mapping function across different sites. Okay, and then for example, you can see different types of the different sites. I put 5 sites here for example here, and the number of the attributes. For those blue attributes, they are from our minimum data set. And then for red, because different sites, they have different purpose of collecting data. So you will see different number of the attributes collected but not included in the minimum data set. Site 1, you got this one here. Site 5, pretty much sister sites here. So we have agreement to collect the minimum data set idea. And then site 4, you got totally different types of the collection here. Site 2 and site 3 never collected quality of the life data. Okay, so you will see the challenges how we're going to like study this type of cross-sites type of the quality of data here. So example is like, how much do symptom like, after affect your cooking, writing, and cleaning mood here. So like, site 2 and site 3 never collect data, but site 1 and site 5 collected all the minimum data set data. Okay, anthropometric data, individual data here, you can see like, site 1, site 2, site 3 collected some data here, and then site 1 collected more attributes. Okay, so this data sets like, more than 100 more attributes above our minimum data set here. So this one is like, try to measure all like, volume data, bioelectric impedance data, etc. here. So with the raw data stored, any volume estimation formula could be plugged in. Okay, so we encourage the sites to give us raw data instead of give us like, the final volume data for that. Because like, we can always plug in refined formula for volumes. Okay, so with that, like, another example is symptom data here. For symptom data, like, lymphedema, breast cancer questionnaire, LBCQ, with all those symptom data from patients. And non-breast cancer questionnaire such as melanoma from MD Anderson. And with that, you can see like, minimum data set has so many attributes here, and then different sites will have like, different attributes here. So when we study, we got to consider those missing data. We got to consider those common data set idea. Okay. So any questions so far?
Yes, I have a question
Please.
for you. Okay. Now, I noticed what you're doing best by focusing, right?
Well,
This is melanoma.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, okay. But I know what I was trying to say was, are you going to do any study on the lymphedema on the lower extremities?
that could be part of that. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's the reason why I'm asking.
Yes. Yeah.
No.
Because like, yeah, I like at this point here, like, because the patients we can access and also our clinical sites, like, we have secondary, like, lymphedema and mostly from breast cancer patients. And definitely the entire minimum data set could be expanded for any types of the,
And this one does have legs.
yeah,
The melanoma
we do
does
have, yeah.
legs.
Okay, that's all I'm asking. I just want
It's
to,
still-
Yes.
okay.
Okay. Any more questions, please?
Does your minimum data set include ethnicity and geography?
I believe so. Yeah, ethnicity, but geography, like, we only know the clinical sites. We don't know, like, the location of the patients at this point here. Because, like, we try to de-identify most of the data before the sites deposit to like, minimum data set. Yeah, yeah, those zip codes will be like, removed. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on here. So, like, by collecting data sets from different sites here, there are, like, informatics work to understand patterns, understand associations, understand, like, from symptom to treatment information, medication information, and also temporal information here. So, for example, this one here, this one is a study about, like, lymph volume changes over time. Okay, from T1, I believe that's the first timestamp post-op timestamp, all the way to 60 months. Yeah, and that's the patient from Missouri data set here. You can see, like, lymph volume changes was, like, level, and then change here, and then that's the lymphedema diagnosis at this point here. So you see, like, how we are going to use this data set to provide real time or like, with timely fashion to our patients, like, like you match this profile here, and from our data set, likely what kind of percentage. If you don't do further treatment here, you'll become lymphedema patients. Okay, so that is data mining type of the temporal mining idea. So by knowing that, and then if we have multiple sites, we are able to come up with some knowledge aggregation, and then provide, like, best practice type of the suggestions about, like, with this type of patient with the demographic background like this way here, what would be likely, like, likelihood for patients to become lymphedema patients. Okay, So that is one example of actionable insights here. And we can also build dashboard for therapists. Okay, so for example, for researchers and therapists, for researchers, you want to plot all your patients. You look at that, and normally if you don't use computer way, it's hard for you to understand what will be the trends for that here. With the computer way, that can help us to see this kind of trends like this one here. Okay, and therapists also would like to see their patients' lymph volume over time. Okay, so with this type of app here, therapists will be able to pull out the patient's profile. And then with the self-management data here, and you can see at different timestamps, you will have different types of the variations here. Okay, and then you can compare patients with similar type of symptoms. And then to move this one to the next level is we can add a social network idea there. So if we are able to group those patients with very similar symptoms, and then some patients with successful treatment after some certain period of time here, then we can group them together, and then we can let patients to interact with each other about what would be the best practice for self-management. Please.
How is that possible on de-identified data? How would you?
For de-identified data, yes, before the app, I'm going to introduce the app later. The users can register.
I see.
And then in this case here, they will be able to link with each other. Yeah, that's for minimum data set. We don't use the identification information. Good question. Yeah.
So right now, is the NPS limited to unilateral involvement? Because when I look at your identifier, is it coded per patient or per limb involvement?
Okay. The question is is the data set only for unilateral or for could be both sides, right? This one we measure both sides. If the patient was a both sides data, and we measure both sides, and then the data here you can see could be one chart, one plot could be only on one side. Okay, and you can see the same patient was two curves, if that's by that lateral type of the measurement. Yeah. Any more questions? Okay, so that's the dashboard for therapists. And for GIS data, we try to use the GIS data for provide better awareness and accessibility for lymphedema patients to identify where they can find therapists from their nearby area here. Okay, so this one here we collected data for breast cancer incidence rate in US, and also LANA certified lymphedema therapist in US, and Nadia trained therapist in US. Participants from Missouri study, so we try to do a little bit global, global nationwide, versus our state of Missouri, and also our patients. Not necessary to be all the Missouri patients. The patients we are seeing from our clinic here, and cross map different population distributions here, and how we are going to use this GIS data to help better planning for the resources, and also try to find what could be out there for patients here. So the color you can see from the map here is the density of the breast cancer patients. Okay, and with this one here, where's Missouri here? That's Missouri here. Okay, and then you can see breast cancer patients and LANA certified therapist. So to me, it's not too bad. Is that correct? Which state has no LANA therapist? Wyoming. Okay, that's the data set we received. That doesn't mean that's the today's data set. This data set we received for this analysis of the data here. So Wyoming does not have therapist at this point here from LANA certified. And is that true from the data set? And once we push the therapist directory type of the iPhone app or mobile app there, then we will be able to get more accurate and also real information there. Okay, so for this one here, you can see 996 LANA certified therapists in the US for the data set we have here. And then you can also take a look at like, Lania, 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 trained lymphedema therapist in the U.S. here. You got more than 10,000 therapists there. Okay, so you see the density here. Again, Wyoming, very few here. Okay, where is this one here? Is that Cheyenne? Or?
Is it Cheyenne?
No,
Yeah. Cheyenne is down
it's down there? Okay.
lower.
Yeah, Alaska, you only see very few there. Okay, so like it's going to help us to better visualize the resources out there for patients, and also like if there will be new clinics to add like this type of the services, they can use that for decision making for that. Okay, and then if we work with like Missouri data here with the 412 patients we have been seeing in the past 5 years.
14 years.
14 years, okay. 14 years here. Then you can see like, with the Lana certified, and you can see like different clusters here. It's St. Louis here, and little bit Kansas City here, and that's the Springfield, and little bit Columbia and the surrounding area. Okay, so with this one here, like, we were able to visualize like, perhaps like for different area, we need to encourage more therapists to get certified, like it was Lana type of training, okay? And then like, by doing like, the regional, like try to see within how many miles, okay? Could be 15 miles, could be 30 miles, and then we try to see how many patients not really get covered, and they have to travel some certain distances to get services here. Okay, so 55 out of 412 of our patients, about 13%, 13.3% not covered by the service of Lana certified. Okay, so is that too bad? Well, I think we need to like, look at which area we can put it there. If we can put it there, we can remove like, we can reduce 13% to 1%, 2%. Okay.
I just have to point out, it is a voluntary certification exam,
Yes.
so there may be qualified therapists who do like not to take the
Yes.
exam.
Yeah. So like, could be like, qualified, but not like, yeah. Okay, so for Lania, trained lymphedema therapist here, you can see like, pretty much covered. Okay, so 6.3% of the patients from our like, patient list not covered by the service for this one. Okay, so with this type of GIS data, like, we collected from our like, training schools, and the next push here is to have a therapist directory voluntarily like, entered by the therapist in the field, and got to be certified therapist in the field. So there is a process to the therapist deposit information there and also upload their certification, right? And then with the approval, we want to make sure like the quality is good. It's not like everybody just like, subscribe there and then like, so like, that's it's called Look for LE here. And this one is out there already. You are able to download at this point here. Okay, but our data set is not complete yet. Okay, it's not complete yet because like, we still need to have validation from the therapist, and then like, that will be some motion to like, push that and then collect information from the therapist. So the mobile device here, and for patients, they can come to this one here and look for like, locations of the therapist. And the therapist, like, could be based on the location, like, the name, states, and also where you are. So for patients who are traveling, would be really, really useful. Like, they want to know, like, if I want to travel to Las Vegas, and can I get treatment there? Okay. Can I like, I'm gonna stay there for 2 months or so. Okay, I just came back from Las Vegas 2 days ago. So, so like, if I want to stay there for 2 months here, am I able to find therapists that can really provide services for me? Okay.
Is there a cost?
No cost. Okay, the question is then cost for the app. It's free. It's free because now it's supported by National Library of Medicine. So it's free. And at this point here, after grant ends, we will find a way to support the development, maintenance and development of the app. The app at this point here is only for searching therapists. In the future, we are adding functions for self-management. And then in the afternoon, Dr. De Souza is going to talk about the development of the devices to measure the volume by automatic by the patients at home. So with this type of data set here, then it will be app related to self-management. Okay, question?
Yeah, I have one. How do you want this updated every year? Do you want new data coming in because the data you have is old?
Yes. Okay. The question is what's the frequency to update the data here? For the initial setting, we love to have the latest data set from LANA, okay, and from different schools. But during over time, the therapist will validate, will come to update the information. If they move, they change the clinics, those type of the idea. The initial set is we will appreciate if different schools will be able to provide the up-to-date information. Yeah.
I know you was focusing on Missouri, the state of Missouri, but what about the state of Illinois?
State of Illinois, well, if the app is out there, then patients can register for the app, and also therapists will be able to register for the app. And definitely we don't, even we are thinking about in South Africa. Okay, they can do the same thing here. We also have a set up to take international addresses for Canada too. Okay, any more questions? Not?
I got one other question.
Yes, please.
Because I know some people that they travel, like over into Europe and stuff like that. Is there something set up there for people over there to be able to make that app over there to find out if they need therapists? If we're going to say going
Yes.
to London.
Yes.
I'm just saying, is there some way they can connect
Yeah.
over there with this also?
Yes. That's the whole setting. It's worldwide. It's not only for Missouri or only for states.
Okay, well, I'm just wondering,
Yes. That's right. Yeah, we'll be sharing that info.
I was actually going to ask the same question. I was just waiting till you were finished because I hear from a lot of patients, most of them looking for help in the U.S.
Yes.
But occasionally because they want to travel and maybe stay for months, and if they need a doctor, a therapist, they want to know how to find one. So yours is going to be international, the whole world,
Yeah.
or just Europe right now, or do you know?
Well, it depends on at this point here, we are not able to take Asian languages at this point. so that would be a very good suggestion. And then I believe we have Japanese groups working on minimum data set too. We can link with them to see how to use the address information to find the location. Okay.
I should tell them some international, not the whole world yet.
Yeah.
Actually, right now, the NALIA database, they train in Malaysia and Europe and South Africa, so those will be in there now.
Okay.
If they're certified with 135 hours
Yeah.
training, they can be in that database. They have to confirm that. So that's already there. Other programs of training would need to come in and be certified in the app.
And then the technical part is how to identify the geolocation for the address with different languages. Okay, the zip code is a great way to show that, right? And then in the future, we can have therapists to use their mobile device to see X and Y list, X and Y coordinates. Then that would be perfect, type of. We don't really need to really understand different characters and then how to locate the information. For Google app, like Google Map, Google is able to do that. Okay, so we should be able to plug in Google API for that, but not at this point here. Okay, thank you for the question.
Are you applying this also to, I see you've got it mostly in iPhone. Are you going to be doing that on the Android side?
It's also in the Android store now. Yeah, so you should be able to download that. Okay. Okay, so that's the mobile app here. Then we add a minimum data set and self-management dashboard to the mobile app. That will be our next phase here. And then once we have the device ready, okay, device to measure the volume of the lymph, and then with different frequencies, and that will be taken into the data set and with the patient's profile for that. Okay, so patient lymph volume measurement history, and also provide visualization up-to-date information about the lymph volume. Okay, so for individual patients, like, you know, they can trace the lymph volume changes. They can also trace different types of the medication data in the future, and to provide up-to-date and also real-time alert system for the patients. And for our industry partners, like, you know, that could be potential place to provide the best product for our patients, okay, to provide the most efficient treatment type of product. Okay, so I want to show this one here. Twitter and Facebook cannot predict election, but they did predict what you are going to have for lunch: tuna sandwich. Okay, and I'm sure our data set can do much better than just that. Yeah. And the hope is, like, you know, once we collect more and more data sets from different sites and also patients' activities, when patients look for therapists, when their home base is here, move to different places, we will know more about how to provide better service to our patients. Okay, and also, like, you know, with the better understanding of for the research community here. So conclusions and discussions here. Information tools are ready for large scale, like, you know, data studies, and I want to reiterate, data is powerful for better understanding of the lymphedema community, and much work to be done. It just, to me, just a start. That's the reason I say 10 years later you will still see me here to crunch data. Yeah, okay, and then, like, you know, the hope is to help the stakeholders, community, to convert data into actionable plan. So I want to acknowledge ALFP stakeholders. Many of you are in this picture. Okay, so I believe that was, like, you know, a couple of years ago, right? 3 years ago? 2009. Okay, and then with this meeting, when we like, you know, I learned a lot about, like, you know, community here, and also ACS support and Longaberger, Horizon of Hope, and National Library of Medicine grant for us to develop this infrastructure here, and data for Missouri patients supported by NIH R1 grant here, and the Shoemaker Endowment for Biomedical Information to support many students' activities here. Okay, so questions here?
We'd be happy to know there are a couple of certified therapists in Wyoming.
Okay.
On the iPhone.
Excellent. Also, it's already there already. Okay, good. Okay. So that's the power of the mobile app, right? So you got, like, you know, they might move from one place to another place. So, like, you know, it's good to know, like, you know, like, how many therapists now? 2 or 3 therapists in Wyoming was LANA certified.
Did you mention that there is a projected time frame for when you'll have the multi-site involvement and have an access to the minimum data set for a variety of researchers, therapists, and even patients if appropriate?
At this point here, we have 5 sites of the data there. And for 5 sites, like, you know, we can provide aggregation, study of the aggregation data. So individual site can access their own data set, but they cannot see others data set. They can see aggregation results. They can compare their data with aggregation results. Okay, so the timeline here is, like, you know, I'm hoping, like, by the end of this year, we will have, like, you know, double of the sites. But, like, you know, it depends on, there are a lot of, like, you know, hurdles, particularly for, like, you know, privacy issues and also, like, you know, data governance. Like, you know, we have a very strict and very, like, you know, well-defined type of the protocol here. But different sites will have different protocols. So how this, like, you know, like, sites to agree with each other, that's a little bit, like, you know, time consuming for that. And we are hoping, like, as many sites as possible, because, like, you know, the infrastructure is here already. Yeah. Okay. Any questions? Have questions from industry? No? Okay. Yes, please. Thank you.
I might point out, Dr. Shyu is the Schumacher Endowed Professor in Biomedical Informatics, and one of the facts that Candace and I counted up for the ALFP is that we've had 33 fellows, students, interns move through our program since 2008, since we began, and that is one funding source for students that work with us. We have express programs for underrepresented young scientists in the field. We have different honors programs in research. So there are leveraging, I guess, of the investments that we make by our volunteer time, our research, our industry partnerships through helping to educate young people in the field of lymphedema and informatics, for example. We have young medical students. One that I'm very proud of has gone on to be a radiologist. He began with us as a biology pre-med student and was funded through those campus resources to do research. So that's a little that bullet there made me think that I should share that with you when we counted up that there have been 33 of those that are not funds that we paid, but the campus has paid through endowments and through partnerships in different ways, through federal grants for training of scientists. And those are, to me, that's our future, to know that these young people are exposed to the issues that we understand about lymphedema. In our case, they're often in the lab with us, recording data with us as we meet patients. In the case of Dr. Shyu, people like Kimberly back there behind Dr. Stewart is learning to manage our website. They're learning to build the minimum data set, the medication database. So they're learning about lymphedema and applying their special expertise in those ways. Dr. Stewart?
Jane, there are no questions because I think people are blown away by the magnitude of what you're attempting to do, getting your arms around the diversity of ways people measure and think about and collect information about patients with lymphedema. It's overwhelming. And at this point, you have it is a reflection of your personality, your sweet, gentle, accepting way. You have taken the information from everybody and tried to mush it into a meaningful database. Have you published and given to Nalia, who's out there teaching therapists how to collect data, have you said, this is the minimal database? This is what your therapist must be collecting about this?
That's a wonderful question, and there are publications that tell about the data mining, particularly from the Missouri and also the MD Anderson data sets. But we also will this afternoon launch our afternoon discussions actually by talking about PCORI, the patient-centered research outcomes. And in that, we have proposed there be training for therapists and physicians in data collection involving patients in instructing us as researchers and physicians and therapists how they prefer to present their data to us, to involve patients in those decisions. So we'll be the hour right after lunch, a 1 to 2, we'll be discussing that. But that's something we realize there is a gap in. There are people that want to participate in a minimum data set, and we want to use the data that every patient would be contributing in a clinical setting without adding layers of bureaucracy to that. That's why Dr. Shyu is bringing the skills of really integrating data from multiple sources, making them be articulated in that cyber infrastructure, because we want to use real data. We don't want to artificially give a tool that might take an hour to complete when we know a clinician has 5 to 10 minutes with the patient. And so we want to use the real data and do the back work of that middleware so that we make it articulate. That's really a major difference in what we have tried to conceptualize related to what other global minimum data sets are doing.
It's phenomenal. I mean, the scope of this is just incredible that you have been able to take a Tower of Babel and basically create a single language, an understandable language, so we can have some understanding of lymphedema in the world.
And just another example, we don't see Dorit, and she's not able to talk to us, but her database from an HMO serving, I think, 3 million Israeli potential patients with lymphedema, that will become an integrated data set with our American data set as she builds that data set. She's the manager of lymphedema services for one of the 3 HMOs in Israel. And so as part of her doctoral work, she'll be integrating, she's working with Dr. Shyu right now. We have access to partners in Canada. We have access to South Africa. So we really are open to the complexities of bringing those worlds together so we can really understand. And whatever the cause, whether it's filariasis or primary lymphedema or secondary lymphedema, we just have the most data on breast cancer, and that becomes our prototype for how we articulate these variables, but it will involve every limb and head and neck cancer eventually as we build those databases. So we have been so privileged to have these wonderful skills brought to us, and the passion that Dr. Shyu has shown you, the enormous hours in addition to his usual workload that he gives us, to build these opportunities for us to better understand the data that we have, that we need and that we have. Yeah.
Like, a very good good suggestion about, we should go to the training schools and then really, bring the protocols there and then tools, very short training, could be 30 minutes training about that. And then all the, continuing education for our therapists, and then with some video to talk about the tools. I think, thank you for a suggestion for that.
That's a great idea. Dr. Taylor?
The iceberg of lymphedema is in the obesity population.
Yep.
And I'm not sure that, that's a very diverse group to contact. But I think that if one identifies the frequency of it and what happens if one treats it with surgical control of the obesity, this would have a big effect on that group.
Yes.
Therapists will be frustrated with dealing with it until you can lose the weight. And I anticipate this would be very helpful for that.
Yes. And with the data mining capability, we can find associations of the BMI group, and also different variations of the treatment variations of the self-management too. Yeah.
And when I talk to Dr. Tara, he always stimulates other ideas and looking at new things. And one thing that comes to my mind, we've had individual discussions with, say, the industry. They're carrying a very special set of data with when garments or devices are needed for renewal or for management of lymphedema. And there have been industry partners that have talked with us on more of a casual basis about, or billing for lymphedema services, how we can capture economic data, but also outcome data through databases that already exist, like how frequently are garments reordered, and what is the new volume on that garment when it's reordered. Has the person maintained, or have they become out of control during that 12-month period instead of 6 months? So there's existing data that tools like this can actually help us to bring together without infringing upon any proprietary issues. It's really a matter of aggregating data, coding that data, a therapist or an institution with a researcher or industry requesting a summary of that data, and even comparing it to other similar entities that agree to be compared. So we very much are in the position of protecting data, but allowing negotiated collaborations within the people that place their data there. We've got legal data sharing agreements for the partners that deposit data to be able to request of each other comparisons or aggregation if they choose that. So lots of opportunities there, I think.
Yes.
Okay.
You were talking about your garments and stuff and that. Okay, for instance, I'm just using me on that, but within 1 year's time, I had to change 4 different times because due to the fact of reduction through therapy and that, and that, what is, like I said, that has changed up so much on that, on me. I'm just saying, for me. I had to keep track of this.
Right.
Yep.
And that's a wonderful example, because when we see improvements in volume, that would indicate some appropriate treatment has been carried out. And then when we don't see improvement, maybe there's a change in the person's condition, other comorbidities, or maybe a different therapy in addition or in place of might be effective. So to look at outcomes that are important to patients and to therapists is a big part of what we aim to do, and is a big part of actually that exercise of what we're going to be doing this afternoon. These are really, I think, laying the groundwork well for the afternoon's activities. I think, thank you so much, Dr. Shyu. We could clap again. We've got time now for a break. I'm going to check our schedule. We're staying well on schedule, I think. We've got until 20 till to come back. So, again, restrooms are around the corner. Well, by that clock, I guess it is 5 minutes. Shall I give you 10 minutes? Okay, bathroom break. There are refreshments, coffee, water outside, juice. Okay, thank you very much.